$1,000. That is what these two players right in front of you are playing for. But this just isn't any normal Pokemon match, because we're playing with all brand new decks with included the Sword and Shield expansion that's currently only in Japan. However, we printed out some colored proxies and we sleeved up some decks to bring to y'all today. In addition, we also have the Turn 1 supporter rule from Japan. It's currently unconfirmed whether we're going to get in America. However, it can be assumed, and Japan is already playing with the Turn 1 supporter rule. So, as these two players are shuffling up, they don't know what each other are playing. They decided to make it a best of 5 $1,000 money match, and they bring in 4 different decks that they feel comfortable with, that they've been making a little spicy stuff up with. But one thing I was wondering real quick from our players is, what do you think your opponent will bring for the first match? Nick, I'll start with you.
I think my opponent has Malamar.
So Locke has, if you see on the screen, he has his champion mat that at the time of recording just won a super spicy League Cup with his homebrewed Malamar deck. And Nick thinks that he's going to bring it on over to Sword and Shield because it seems like his bread and butter, since he's made a lot of points with it, which seems reasonable. So Locke, what do you think Nick has prepared for us today?
Pikarom.
Pikarom. Interesting choice. That's fair. Nick has placed... Nick brought Pikarom to an expanded tournament and did well with it. So,
You'll go first.
Looks like Locke won the dice roll, and our players are setting up.
No supporter for you.
And this is the beginning of our super mega awesome $1,000 money match. Best of 5. With 4 secret spicy decks that we have never seen. Or it could be updated versions. But still, cards that we have not seen yet. So they flip it over. Locke starts Jirachi and Ditto. And Nick starts with Absol. So maybe Locke drops the Inkay. So maybe these players were right. Maybe they made good guesses. Looks like Locke also opts to drop the Giratina. You can't play supporter turn 1. Locke already forgets about the turn 1 supporter rule.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, we're also playing sort of like a top cut scenario. We're gonna make it best of 3 in an hour, 60 minutes. To give our players some, usually in a regionals we would have 50 minutes, but because our players are a little unfamiliar with the Japanese cards, we're gonna give them a little extra spare time to think about and reread some translations and ask me if we need anything. So looks like Locke's doing pretty alright with his setup. I think he grabbed Super Scoop Up from the Stellar Wish, correct? Yep. Pretty spicy stuff going on. I don't think we've ever seen a Super Scoop Up in a Malamar list, but I think Locke knows what he's doing. It's Nick's turn. He opts to drop the escape board onto his Absol to give it an easy retreat. That Absol is going to make it irritating for that Jirachi to get out of the active.
So shuffle, put hand at the bottom, draw 5.
So Nick plays our first new supporter card called Marnie, and she is super cool and gives us a unique kind of interaction, saying both players shuffle their hand and then put it on the bottom of the deck. Then the player who played it gets to draw 5, while their opponent gets to draw 4. So it's kind of reminiscent of Judge, however, you're not shuffling those same cards back in the deck. So you can't get the same cards. Nick also drops a Pokédoll. So maybe this quite isn't, it might not be Pikarom with the Pokédoll. But he does discard a Lightning Energy with another new card called Quick Ball, which allows you to discard one card from your hand and search your deck for a basic, any basic, which is something a lot of players have been looking for quite a while now, being able to search out non-GX basics. Stuff like Inkay, Jirachi, Ditto, Vulpix, Tapu Koko Prism. There's so many different options that players have had to use as substitute Pokemon communication, and sometimes that can be frustrating as it doesn't directly give you a Pokemon. Nick opts to retreat to bring up his Jirachi to go ahead and Stellar Wish. I'm not quite sure if he's going to be able to get attack off this turn because he already retreated, but he opts to grab a Quick Ball. We still aren't exactly sure of what he's playing, but who knows, we could see a turn 2 knockout come out of nowhere. Especially with Tapu Koko Prism Star being so easy to just search out. And it looks like Nick just opts to pass. Taking it slow. The turn 1 supporter rule in the format, it seems like it might slow down a tiny bit. You definitely have more time from second to just say, alright, I'm just gonna Stellar Wish, take my time. You know, it's not that big of a deal right now. So, looks like Locke drops his Mysterious Treasure to get that Malamar set up. So he's already got one Malamar set up. He can get that second one popping. So all he'll need to attack is just one energy to attach, and then get another one in the discard, along with actually searching out the Malamar, and then being able to just swing with that Giratina on his bench. Looks like Locke's taking a little bit of time to think, so he opts to just play Marnie again, just like Nick did, and they're going to do the exact same thing. Shuffle. One interesting thing about Marnie is that you can cut your opponent's hand, since it says shuffle and then put into the deck. So for future reference, we should get used to offering cuts for Marnie. Looks like Locke's gonna do his Stellar Wish again. Hopefully grabbing something good. It looks like he's got some options. Not sure what he'll pick, depending on what's in his hand. Optimally, I think he wants to start swinging as soon as possible. Looks like he went for that switch, so now he potentially can be swinging, but he still needs that energy in the discard and that attachment for turn. But if he does manage to get it, he will be able to take a knockout on this Jirachi. Looks like Locke benches the TrevNoir, I believe? Trevenant and Dusknoir? Interesting. So Locke attaches Recycle Energy to Giratina and just opts to bring it up instead of attacking. I assume he couldn't get the other Psychic. But maybe if Nick can get the knockout, it won't be that big of a deal for Locke because he'll still have his Jirachi, he'll still have the Recycle Energy, And the Giratina can obviously just come back as a Distortion Door. Nick's just gonna go ahead and Stellar Wish. Think about what he's got.
Come back in.
Yep.
Looks like Nick opts to grab that Marnie. But he's gonna play Volkner. Maybe he just needed a draw supporter to follow up with. You always gotta make sure that you have a follow-up instead of just maybe grabbing the wrong thing. Maybe something that you want at the time, but not have a follow-up, and then you get stuck with a dead hand. You never know. So it looks like Nick grabs yet another Quick Ball and a Lightning Energy. Looks like he's opting to trash the Jirachi. I'm not quite sure. I think he just think he might have another Jirachi and he doesn't need it. So we see our first unique Pokemon from the Sword and Shield set, Morpeko. Locke's gotta look at this little hamster boy. Electric hamster.
Might as well read the text.
So, a cute thing about Morpeko, the whole gimmick. This deck has been doing relatively well in Japan, and Nick was interested in the hit and run strategy. And Morpeko,
Fine.
the attack you want to be using most with Morpeko V is its second attack, the Electro Wheel. It's similar to Hitmonchan's Hit and Run, or if you played further back, Donphan's Spinning Turn. There's been multiple Pokemon that attack and then switch the bench. So for 3 energy, I believe it's 2 lightning and a colorless, it does 150, and then I believe it's you may switch? We'll have to double check on the translation whether it's forced or you have a choice in doing it. But I think most of the time you're gonna opt to switch into like a Pokédoll, which when knocked out won't give you any prizes. So even though you 2-shot mostly every tag team in the format, that Pokédoll will give you time to 2-shot. So it looks like Locke went for the Super Scoop Up, but I think he whiffed it.
Yep.
So he's just gonna go for the Quick Ball, trash Inkay for a Dedenne. He's probably got a dead hand, I assume, if he just wants to get rid of everything. Yeah, yep, he just ends up dropping the Gengar and the Mysterious Treasure. So this list seems very similar in the idea of Locke's original homebrew Malamar list in our current format. The idea of just mainly using big basic tag teams like TrevNoir, Gengar, Giratina-Chomp. We haven't seen if he included Giratina and Garchomp, but all we can tell so far is that he wants to use big, bulky attackers. And it looks like he's opting to do his recharges. Yep, only one so far. I think that's all he's got onto the TrevNoir. And Locke's just taking it easy. I don't think he really needs to be moving at this point. Even if he doesn't have the switch, he's just kind of taking his time. Because Nick's really not applying that much pressure regardless. And even if Nick does get the attack off this turn, Locke can just use spell tag damage and get his recycle energy back. So he doesn't really fall that far behind regardless. So If this...
And it's the second attack that does the switching?
Yes.
Yes.
Good, all in one.
Okay. What does the first attack do?
I believe it's for a single... So Locke is wondering about Morpeko's first attack. It's I don't know if it's going to be used that often, but I believe it... For a single energy, it's colorless. I'm looking it up right now. Morpeko. Spark. For a single colorless energy, base 20 damage, and then it does a 20 snipe to the bench.
Okay.
Dance of the Ancients.
Yep.
And I just have attach here.
Yep.
A neat thing about this deck is that Nick is able to search out his Pokedolls with Volkner while also searching energy.
I'll do 150.
So it looks like Nick gets off the first attack. One thing I forgot to mention in that, looking at Morpeko V, the exact wording on the second attack, it states discard an energy, then switch. So you do not have a choice in any of the decisions. So I believe Locke opted to use 3 damage counters to knock out a Pokédoll and then put 1 on Morpeko. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah. The spell tags might make this matchup pretty rough for Nick. Especially if Locke can just easily get around the Pokédolls. No. While Locke technically lost in the trade of 0 to 1, he did get a Pokédoll out of the way. If Locke can get rid of all the Pokédolls quickly, then Morpeko won't have that many good pivots. Looks like Locke is dropping another Dedenne and trashed all the stuff that's shown on your screen.
Yep.
So even though Locke is opting for this big basic type of build, he still does have a lot of spread capabilities with Baby Brown and Giratina, and maybe Nick will have to keep that in mind going forward. Looks like Locke is playing Cynthia and Caitlyn to trash a Great Catcher. Great Catcher really isn't going to do much in this matchup and may see less play going forward. Because of Pokemon V. The exact wording of Great Catcher states that it can only bring up EX and GX. But Pokemon V are technically immune to that. I think Locke just opts to pass again. Jeez, it's looking Locke's passed kind of a lot. So Nick opts to activate the Pokédoll's ability. Unlike Robosub, if you remember from the XY area, instead of discarding it when it's in the active, because it says it cannot retreat,
Where's your last energy?
Oh,
it discarded.
Oh.
Locke's just a little confused about the effect of Morpeko. He was just double checking.
With the attack?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We just wanted to quickly clarify that it does have a cost of discarding a single energy. Interestingly, the Japanese Morpeko lists have opted to run Recycle Energy. I'm not sure if we've seen it from Nick, but potentially he could drop a Recycle Energy and then use that as the attack cost, and then just return it to hand. So even though Nick went second and he's been taking it, both players have been kind of taking it easy, Nick has been getting attack after attack off, and now he's down to 4 prizes. Locke's doing some thinking about how he can maneuver around the Pokédolls and get himself into the best situation to come back and clean up this game. Just because you're down some prizes does not mean you're out of the game. Locke just needs a little bit of time to get something set up. And with that TrevNoir, TrevNoir is a promo that came out relatively recently, but the main use is for 3 psychic energy. Its main Night Watch attack, doing 150 damage, and then you choose 2 random cards from your opponent's hand and shuffle them in the deck. So it seems like the combo that Locke is going for is playing Marnie to drop your opponent down to 4, and then Night Watch to bring them down to 2. So that could potentially devastate their strategy, especially with the Morpeko deck, as you need to keep getting energy to attach in order to... What'd you think? Nick, how many cards do you have in hand?
5. They're proxies, I know.
Marnie drops you down to 4.
4. Okay. This was the last card. Okay, so I'm just gonna shuffle it back in.
Well, you can't.
Okay.
So we had a small misunderstanding about Marnie. Marnie drops the opposing player down to 4, while the player who played it gets 5.
Gotcha.
So since it's a new card, and we can see that what the last card Nick picked was, we decided just to put it back on top. Especially because if Locke decides to, or manages to get the Night Watch, Nick's deck will be shuffled anyways, so it may not matter. And as we can see, we've now got the double psychic energy in the discard, and I believe Locke attached for turn, so he still has his double psychic recharges available to him. Locke's gonna play the quick ball with the psychic energy, searching through the deck. Not quite sure what he has left to grab, but I'm sure Locke's got some pretty neat tricks up. It seems like he opts to just fail it. Maybe not having options, or he just doesn't want to show Nick what's cooking in the deck. Which you can do. You can choose to fail quick ball. Locke's gonna go ahead and do his psychic recharge onto the TrevNoir, and if Locke can retreat the Dedenne, then he can end up going for the... There we go, switch, and now, just like I said, the Night Watch, even though Nick does not get it, Locke does not get a prize.
Nice.
Oh, man. Locke ends up picking out the Marnie and the escape board. This could be devastating for Nick. he might not have a supporter or a way to retreat in hand, so Nick might be losing a turn, essentially, because of Night Watch. But we still gotta see what Nick's got in his hand. He could have something to follow up. One interesting thing that I like to know is the decks seem a tiny bit slower than they are in the current standard. And one thing, as a side note, that I think would be good for the format is that if it did slow down a little bit, it's nice to see unique strategies like Morpeko and the TrevNoir.
And I'll play the Rose and get a Pokemon, a trainer, and a base damage.
Yep.
So the item that Nick just attached to the Morpeko, I'm gonna quickly find the direct translation from PokeBeach. It is called Giant Charm. It is a tool that provides any Pokemon with 30 HP. So you can put this on a basic, a V, a GX, an EX, a non-GX, a stage 1, stage 2, it doesn't matter. They get 30 more HP. So we already have these big tag teams with 270, 280, and it's kind of interesting. It's like, why would you want plus 30 HP? Well, an interesting interaction with Choice Helmet makes Giant Charm a little bit better now, because Choice Helmet affects EXs and GXs, but EXs have rotated. Therefore, it only affects GXs. But with Giant Charm, you get the bonus for everything, regardless of any Pokemon V, non-GX, etc. Another interesting part of the strategy with the Morpeko deck is that even though you don't take prizes on the Pokédoll, it still counts as a knockout. Therefore, you can use Rosa to search for Pokemon, energy, and a item.
Yeah, I'm going back. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to discard that. Quick ball.
So Nick, it seems like Nick is trashing the E-Switch for a Quick Ball. Wonder what he's gonna grab. Looks like Nick's got the Mew. It seems maybe Nick is scared of the potential Baby Blowns.
Doesn't stop baby blondes.
Oh, yes, correct. It does not stop Baby Blind because it places damage counters. I'm trying to think of something that doesn't put damage counters and does direct snipe. It's probably going over me right now, but Locke could potentially have something that snipes the bench.
For 150.
So Nick's just gonna swing for 150 and bring up the Mew. It is a good option because Nick... It could be true that Locke doesn't have any bench snipers and just opts for damage counters like our current Malamar lists. So Nick opts to just sacrifice it. It's better to lose the Mew than the Morpeko. I think Nick has lost 2 or 3 Pokédolls now, and one of them could be prized or still in the deck. 1, 2, 2 so far. So Nick could have 1 or 2, or that could be it. They could be prized, or he could only run 2.
It's like 3.
Ooh. Locke opts to just switch and swing with the Malamar. Because he's already got his TrevNoir set up, it doesn't really seem like he needs it. I think he would rather lose the Malamar than the TrevNoir. Interesting strategy by him. One thing to be wary of is that TrevNoir is still susceptible to a potential Great Catcher or Custom Catcher, because Custom Catcher can still bring up Pokemon V, which may cause people to ditch Great Catcher and bring up Custom Catcher. But we will just have to see how decks adapt to Pokemon V. Two decks actually that opt to run Custom Catcher, Greens and a Rosa ADP list that performed well at Daytona. So we could see if Japan takes inspiration from that, or if the Morpeko lists just decide to run Great Catcher. But as Nick proves with the Rosa, he grabs Great Catcher, Zamazenta V, and Lightning Energy. Zamazenta is one of the box legendaries from the Sword and Shield game, and it has now been printed into a Pokemon V.
It's Great Catcher up your TrevNoir, and I'll knock you out.
It is actually one of the first Pokemon V to be revealed that's currently in a box and was revealed at Worlds. But we'll take a quick look at Zamazenta. It has 230 HP. Its ability Dauntless Shield, which prevents all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's VMAX. So it only prevents damage, so if your opponent has some effect, it'll still go through. It's only VMAX, not V. For double metal and a colorless, Assault Tackle does 130 and then discard a special energy from your opponent's active. But I'm not quite sure if Nick's going to be Assault Tackling with... and it looks like Locke concedes to Nick, as Nick got the kill on the TrevNoir. Locke had a pretty slow setup and couldn't really get much going. And the Morpeko with the Morpeko two-shotting the TrevNoir, essentially going down to 1 prize, it kind of put him too far behind.
Evan, so I think this does 20 to the bench. You look that up real quick.
Looking up a quick ruling for Nick about one of his cards that he's running. I don't want to mention it because Locke doesn't know.
I just showed it to him. It was pretty obvious once you asked the question anyway, because
so the Nick,
it's a similar attack. So
y'all cool if I talk about it on?
Yeah,
okay. So the card that we were gonna mention, I didn't know if it was gonna come out during the match and surprise Locke. So, but he kind of ended up showing it to Locke anyways. But the card that we're talking about is a new type of card called Pokemon VMAX. And this got teased at Worlds as being these huge cards based off in the games. And the first card that we're going to look at is Morpeko VMAX, which has an astounding 300 HP. When Magikarp and Wailord first came out, that was the first card to have 300 HP. And that was a big basic that everyone kind of freaked out about, having this huge amount of HP. But now with VMAXs, we're starting to see 300 become the norm. Thankfully though, they still give up 3 prizes, and it seems as though their attacks aren't quite as strong as the tag teams, and they're also a stage 1, in addition to only so far having maybe 1 or 2 attacks without a GMAT. Without a GX attack, sorry. But Morpeko VMAX in particular, for 2 lightning energy and a colorless, which is it's basically an upgraded version of its second attack. The same cost, it does 180, but it says it does 20 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. So it seems like they mash the 2 attacks together. The sniping from the spark attack, and then the energy cost and the damage from the second attack. Mashing it together and then upgrading it a tiny bit. So it looks like Locke starts with Gengar and Mimikyu. I'm not quite sure. I don't think that's the card he really wants to start with. But he drops Inkay, Quick Balls away Reset Stamp. And it looks like he's getting his setup sort of similar to last time. Don't want to speak too soon. What's in the discard exactly? Can I double check? 1, 2, 3. What's the last card?
Hyperwick.
Okay, just double checking. Just make sure you didn't play supporter. We gotta keep checking for that. Gotta get used to it. Every now and then I'll double check to see if the turn 1 player uses a supporter so that we don't mess up the game. Looks like Nick gets his own Quick Ball off the Stellar Wish, wants to get his own stuff going. Starts off with a Voltner. Unlike last time where both players were just playing Marnie over and over again, it seems like they're going to play their own unique supporters this time. I think the search is what the Morpeko deck wants to opt for, because you've got your Stellar Wishes. Voltner and Rosa seem to make the deck go smoothly, as it's shown by Nick. Nick can essentially grab almost anything out of the deck. He can grab a searching card, a tool, Pokédoll, a gusting card.
Oh, it's an item. Yeah. All right.
But he can't grab Thunder Mountain as much as he would like to. That's one of the things he can't grab.
Card.
One thing that lightning type decks really enjoy about the Sword and Shield expansion is finally having a way to search that Tapu Koko prism. Before rotation we had Nest Ball, which would easily search it, but then we lost Nest Ball, so we'd have to use Pokemon Communication, or you could use Lycia, but most players were opting to use Pokemon Communication. But thankfully now we have Quick Ball, which will easily search it.
Yes.
Looks like Nick's gonna start that off. Only grabbing 1 though, which is interesting. I think that's kind of a questionable play. I don't know if Nick should have been in such a rush to get the Koko, because I'm not quite sure if Locke has any direct way of gusting out non-GXs and V Pokemon. Based off of last game, I think we only saw Great Catcher, so I don't think using the Koko was completely necessary. Ooh. Looks like Locke's eyeing up the Gengar and Mimikyu's GX attack. Which, if I recall correctly, Whorehouse... he's just gonna use the normal attack, which allows it to search the opponent's hand, and then for each trainer does 50 damage. But I think he only needed one to knock out that Pokédoll. So even though Locke may have not had the preferred start he wants, at least he's attacking and going. But if Nick can get this Morpeko set up and keep feeding Pokédolls, things might get rough for Locke pretty quickly. Especially as he gets the Pokédoll off the Stellar Wish. And if Nick has like an escape board or a switch and then an energy, he can just swing and then use the recycle energy to essentially bounce it back into the hand, satisfying the discard cost. And then he can just use it again. So literally just like a hamster wheel, bouncing back and forth and back and forth. So Nick shows that he does indeed have custom catchers. So Locke needs to be a little careful about Nick dropping a Volkner or a Rosa to grab the second custom catcher to bring up whatever he wants to finish up a knockout. So all Nick needs is one way to switch. He drops the E-Power for 180. Switch. And does he have anything else? Catcher for 3. There's the second catcher. Draws 3. What did he grab? Does he want to sit on that hand, or does he want to keep going? Looks like he just opts to play it safe. Swing for 180. So that Gengar Mimikyu only has 60 HP left. We see on, I believe, turn 2, Nick almost obliterating this tag team. And if Locke loses this Gengar Mimikyu, he'll be down 3 prizes. And the prize trade is really rough for the big tag team Malamar toolbox deck. Looks like he's going to play it safe, just retreat, hope that Nick can't bring it up. Locke really needs to recuperate here and get something going. Looks like he's going to grab the Marnie off the Stellar Wish. Is he... We don't know if he's playing it yet. He's going to shuffle up. He drops his signature TrevNoir, his ace in the hall.
And draw 4. Yep.
Yeah. And it looks like this Marnie might help Locke out some, finally getting something going. I think Locke would prefer to use TrevNoir to close Nick's hand out and give him the least amount of options as possible. And with Nick burning 2 custom catchers, and already playing some Vulcaners and the such, and in addition to only having one Jirachi, Locke could potentially limit Nick's options enough to where Nick misses the energy. So it looks like he's going to do his Psychic Recharge. Does Locke have the second recharge to be able to potentially attach for turn? And he does go ahead and attach for turn, but does he have the recharge? Ooh. And it looks like he doesn't have it. So Nick, carrying the offense here, if he manages to get like Vulcaner or something, or he can't quite use Rosa if he had it to get the correct catcher or the custom catcher, because a Pokédoll or anything hasn't been knocked out. But he does have the energy, and he can just use the Pokédoll to get the retreat effect. Let's see, Marnie, yep. Alright, Nick's gonna opt to use Marnie to get a fresh hand. Potentially, if Locke had gotten the attack off, he could have gotten rid of the Marnie like he did last game, and essentially stick Nick with no options, but Nick basically just ignores the Marnie and just says, I'm going to play my own Marnie. And he's got his own attack. Nick essentially has everything he wants, I believe. I don't know quite what else Nick could want other than a gusting effect. I don't know if he has it, though. Oh, he might be looking for it now. Does he get it? Does he get things he's looking for? Does he have the things he need? Oh, he's got one custom catcher. This could seal Locke out of the game, potentially, if Nick managed to pull up something. Nick's got some big decisions to make. Oh, it seems like he doesn't have it. It seems he may have whiffed the knockout or the swing on TrevNoir, whatever he preferred to do. But Locke ended up passing his own turn, so Nick's kind of fine just chilling. And it could potentially be in Nick's best interest to leave Morpeko alone with the energy, because you have to constantly discard it. He might want to set up another Morpeko so that in case he loses one, he'll have another one set up. But I assume by now that Locke should have everything he needs to start night watching and Marnie or a potential reset stamp. I don't know if we've seen a reset stamp. Locke seeing that Nick's probably gonna go after the Gengar, he kind of...
Go back over, ready?
He puts the spell tag on the Gengar to basically say, hey, if you guss this up, I'm gonna be punishing you and hopefully set up some numbers to knock you out. Especially on the Morpeko, specifically, with it only having... Let me double check the exact HP. It has 170 HP. So, sadly for Locke, even if he puts all four on the Morpeko with the Giant Charm, it'll go down to 160, but Night Watch does 150. So it looks like Locke is going to knock out Nick's main draw option and get rid of two critical cards. Oh! Oh, he gets rid of the energy in a custom catcher oh, that's why Night Watch can be so devastating. Getting rid of key components in the strategy. And especially, like I mentioned earlier, with the Marnie or a potential reset stamp.
Yeah, Proxies knocked out.
Depending on what Nick's got, that Night Watch could have messed him up a lot. But we'll see. He's still got his attacker. But he doesn't have any Jirachi or dolls, so kind of scratching the head about, like, how is Nick gonna follow up now with... It's like he's got his Morpekos ready to attack, but, you know, what are you gonna go into? So he's just gonna grab what he lost, so... Locke kind of essentially burned Nick's supporter. In a way. Not directly, but... He ended up getting rid of what Nick wanted to have in the deck. So, Nick's gonna drop his energy. Oh, he has the double custom catcher! There will be no potential super scoop up plays to save the Gengar. Oh man.
Let's knock that.
So Nick opts to just two-shot the Gengar with the electric wheel. Go into his other Morpeko.
Okay.
And Locke's gonna evenly distribute the spell tag to just do 20-20. But Nick takes a huge 3-prize lead. And if Nick can take care of this TrevNoir, Locke's big TrevNoir, his ace in the hall, then Nick will be one step closer to that juicy $1,000. But TrevNoir is Locke's cup of tea, his ace in the hall. It's his main, it's his bro, you know. Looks like he's going for he might be going for the big combo to punish Nick. He drops the baby Blounce. Oh man, is he gonna go for the big 12? Oh man. He drops the Marnie. So Locke has two ways of going about this. He's still got his Viridian, and he's got his charge up, so he could drop the big 12 damage counters on the Morpekos. Or, if Locke feels lucky that he can Night Watch and then make Nick brick, then he'll be able to, next turn, bring up the Baby Blown and spread the damage. And potentially just knock out these two Morpekos and call it a day. There are so many options for Locke right now. And I think that's what his philosophy with making the deck was, like having this toolbox rather than the traditional single prize attackers with the spread. He does end up grabbing the Giratina, but it seems like he's just going to trash it with Viridian. So at any time, he can bring it out. But it's unsure if we're going to bring it out quite yet. Drops the spell tag on the Malamar in case Nick goes. It's an interesting play from Locke. Not quite sure personally. I'm kind of not sure because Nick.
Okay.
See, Nick burned all his custom catchers, so he has no way of bringing up the Malamar. So I'm not quite sure about the spell tag. But maybe Locke has a plan. He knows what he's doing, especially because he knocked out the Morpeko, and he just has to get through this last one, assuming Nick can't follow this up. So what can Nick do? Did Nick brick off the... Well, at least he gets a basic, technically. He's gonna have Radiant to thin the deck. But trashing a skateboard, it's like, oof. But to be fair, he did have another one that just got recycled in the deck. This giant charm is saving his life right now. Crazy. Yikes. What does Nick have in his hand?
And we'll swing for 150.
Looks like all Nick can do is just swing for 150. It seems like Locke's strategy with the TrevNoir is working for now, but he does gotta be wary about that Nick could potentially just win the game next turn. So it looks like Locke's gonna go for the fishing rod, which gets back his Gengar and spell tag. The Gengar can potentially one-shot Morpeko, and he also does have Horror House available. But not exactly sure. Looks like Locke wants to get some last late game puzzle pieces to wrap up this game. He is definitely putting on this comeback pressure with the TrevNoir. Jeez, TrevNoir is just so devastating, being able to limit Nick's options. All Nick could do was just attach, swing, and he's kinda, I think he's just kinda hoping right now to see what Nick's got. So let's see. He is going to do the Big 12 spread, but how's he going to do it? So he opts to just kill the Lily's Pokédoll and then set up the Morpeko for game. So, depending on what Nick gets, he might end up... Oh man, what does Nick have to... Can he survive?
I'll discard that for this.
Just gonna trash that for the quick ball. Ooh. What's he thinking? It's looking like Nick's on the ropes here. What can he do? Yeah. TrevNoir pulls this crazy comeback with the Night Watch. Nick's got to really watch out for that TrevNoir. It can...
Easy wrong.
I should have just played that Absol. I had Absol in my hand. It would have prevented you from sending up Jirachi and retreating. So here's the problem. I could have Viridian Force for basic energy, but I was out of basic energy. I didn't have any left. I had energy, just no basics.
Oh, yeah, the cycle that I put back on the bottom of your deck from Marnie eventually.
I'll go first.
So Nick opts to go first. Coming into game 3.
Is it less than 20?
It's pretty cool how Locke is proving in this set that just because you're a game behind and just because you're behind on prizes doesn't mean you're out of the game. TrevNoir is a pretty devastating card that, in combination with Marnie, can quickly change the tide. So it looks like Nick starts with the Absol. But it's neat that Nick already has the Absol, but I don't think that's the card he wants to start. But Locke starts with his preferred Jirachi, helping him get some draws going on. Even though Locke can't evolve quickly, he has to get down the Inkays right now and then evolve them next turn. I think he still has a good amount of time before Nick starts swinging. Even though we saw that last game, Nick managed to pull off the turn 2 Electro Wheel with the Tapu Koko Prism. I still think Locke's deck is engineered well to be able to compensate for Inkays needing to be evolved. Interestingly enough, Locke opts to grab Gengar and Mimikyu off the Quick Ball. Interesting choice. Usually I felt like you would want to get your Inkay set up, but maybe he just has them on hand. But to counter that, it seems like
we're at the Marnie, but I'm not gonna play it.
so. Even though Locke's grabbing the Marnie, I'm not quite sure if he's ready to play it or not. He might just have some other stuff to do before he doesn't. Locke opts to just go for the big whorehouse. Maybe he thinks that he can get a quick win from being able to lock Nick out of doing anything, and then being able to one-shot this Absol with the... We don't really see Gengar and Mimikyu that often. So I actually did forget what the first... I'll see what... Gengar and Mimikyu. Poltergeist. Its first attack is Poltergeist. We just don't see it enough for me to remember. Though now that we can see Locke's hand and how he's playing, it does seem that he just had a really bad start and he couldn't get the Inkays out. Locke opting for a Dedenne to just start over with his hand. Hopefully he's looking for some Inkays to start charging stuff up. Because he still has to wait a turn till he actually evolve them. So he needs to get them out as soon as possible. So there we go, he gets one. Though I would think that he wants to see more than that. And there's the quick ball, so he can get another, potentially, if that's what he wants. He gets the Ditto, that's fair. So now next turn he can evolve and start charging things up. I think he would have liked to see that last turn, and now we are in time. Locke is turn 0. Nick, turn 1, etc., etc. So Locke getting Super Scoop up. Maybe if Nick can pull out an attack, Locke can just say, nope, I'm gonna make sure you're not getting any knockouts. Ooh, or he's just gonna go for the Super Scoop up on the Jirachi to get it out of the active. But it didn't quite work out for him. I think he would have preferred to get the Poltergeist off this turn, especially because it's in time. But it's interesting how we will see the players potentially change their strategies because it's time. Nick only has 1 or 2 turns to kill something or knock it out, while so it looks like Nick's gonna just push up the Pokédoll, say, hey, I'm gonna take out the one prize I need to win in overtime. And if he can just keep pushing up Pokédolls, then Locke can't gust up anything, because it seems that Locke has only had Locke has only had great catchers, but he hasn't used it a single time. There's nothing to bring up.
This?
No. So they keep it, drop through,
Oh, okay.
and get this back.
Gotcha.
So Locke's going to be digging for as many options as possible, but I'm not 100% sure how it will work out for him exactly. I'm sure Locke has a game plan in mind, but he is turn 2. So Locke's going to start a wish to see what he got cooking. Looks like he's eyeing up the Acrobike. He's got those neat little league promos. So if I were Locke, what would I be digging for? His bench isn't filled up, so he can put down.
Dramatic conclusion.
He can put down a Giratina, but he doesn't want Nick to get that knockout. He could put down TrevNoir to limit Nick's options. That's a possibility. I think with Locke's cup of tea, the TrevNoir, I think might be the way to go if he can pull it off. But I don't know if he quite has the resources to pull it off. I'm not completely sure about the double treasure, because if he does want to go for the TrevNoir play, he would need double Malamar, but he could have it in hand. We don't know what's going through his mind, but he gets it off the treasure, so maybe he has the TrevNoir in hand. Whatever, it completely depends on what's in Locke's hand. He just ends up passing. This might have been the best move because he might have not had a switching option, or he wants to make Nick think that he doesn't have a switching option. That we're gonna the paranoid plays. Nick's gotta decide now that he's turned 3, what is Locke planning and how am I gonna sneak in this victory?
This is tough.
Nick.
Oh, yeah, one card.
Nick's contemplating about what he needs to get and what he needs.
That's turn 3.
So, are we gonna play sudden death?
Yeah, this is just like a top cut match.
Oh, you want to do it that way?
Yeah, it's a top
Okay.
cut match.
Okay, gotcha.
Locke was a little unclear about us going into sudden death. So now, whoever takes the next prize wins the game. But Nick has no cards in hand. But Locke maybe he needs to find a switching option. We don't. He's got 3 cards in hand, I believe. It looks like he's going for the scoop up. Does he want to use it now, or is he going to use it to get the Jirachi? Quite the interesting pickle. Both players are quite. They're both quite in the interesting pickle. Man. Both players are both on the edge of victory, yet so far away from it. It's crazy. It's like we just need this one little thing, and that could push us over the edge to win the game. So Locke's gonna risk it for the super scoop up. Does he hit it? No. He has Locke hit a Locke hasn't hit that many super scoop ups this game. So he's gonna put the skateboard.
You draw 4. I draw 5.
So I don't. Oh man, I don't think Locke wanted to, but part of the downside of having the Marnie strategy is giving your opponents cards. But he does get the Ridian, which eliminates the Thunder Mountain. He trashes the Giratina to get an energy. What will Locke do with that energy, and does he have more energy in the discard to charge up anything? So he's gonna attach. So now Jirachi can retreat. Ooh, looks like Locke's gonna go for the Poltergeist.
100.
100.
I see how it goes. Yeah. Yep. Regular game.
Okay. So now Locke knows exactly what Nick has got going on.
I see what happened.
Yeah.
Alright. Marty. Okay.
Yeah. So maybe Nick can get the things he needs to get a knockout. But I think he would need quite a bit. While Locke does know what Nick has in his hand, it's probably going to quickly change. So Locke ended up giving Nick a way to discard energy for a potential Tapu Koko play. And if Nick gets the miracle set of cards, it's kind of unlikely, but it is possible for Nick to win this turn. I think the biggest problem for Locke is not being able to gust anything. And if Pokemon V become the meta in single prizers, then Great Catcher becomes so much worse than it was. Right now, it's a great card. It works against mostly every single deck, but now with Pokemon V in the mix, everything gets tricky. So maybe this Star Wish may give Nick the card he needs. Looks like he might be building something up in here.
Hand size? 3. Custom catcher up. Malamar.
So he's gonna double custom catcher up Malamar. Maybe if he doesn't get what he needs, he can stall out Locke a tiny bit to just give him that tiny edge he needs to wrap up the game. Locke does know that Nick has the Morpeko that he's going to bench and the Marnie. So does this Marnie set Locke back enough and give Nick what he needs to win? Or did he end up giving Locke what he needs to win? This game is so close. I think optimally Nick would like to see the Polka Doll in order to save the Jirachi. Because if Locke can get out of this, he could potentially kill the Jirachi and that would be it. Looks like he's gonna retreat. Maybe? Nick's still thinking about it. Bringing up the Morpeko. So the Morpeko has 200 HP. Theoretically, what Locke needs to get to win is for Nick to have 4 items in hand, retreat the Malamar, and then Poltergeist to knock out the Morpeko.
Reference on the first attack, what does it do?
So the first attack, for quick reference, 20 base, and then 20 snipe to the bench for single colorless.
Okay, then I'll smack you, and I'll do 20 to I guess GengKyu.
So Nick's just gonna opt to do a little poke snipe. Maybe it might end up changing numbers.
You thought that was in a skateboard, yeah.
Locke missing the spell tag for a skateboard. Obviously, it's a bad play that you wouldn't do. And he immediately knows that he doesn't want to do it, so. I think he trashed Viridian for Viridian to get another energy. Seeing what his options are, the sudden death match has gone for quite a little bit, but it's interesting. Both players are kind of jockeying for a position in order to get that slight edge just to be able to finish the game. And if either player misses, this match is so close that if either player misses a beat, they're out. It's over. Like, it's so close. It's so backwards. Like, last turn you think Locke's got it, and this turn you think Nick might have it,
Yeah.
and Locke concedes he can't.
My last Denny surprised.
Oh.
Man.
Locke just ran out of options there.
Because I was just gonna to Denny just to get my switch out.
I would have,
But then I also messed up the first turn where I should have just not switched into Jirachi. I should just keep the Gengar active.
And Nick takes the first round with his Morpeko Dolls deck against Locke's Malamar Toolbox.
That was fun. That was fun.
And there you go. Bop.